Hello and welcome to New Frontiers on CCTV International. I'm Ji Xiaojun in Beijing. And today we're continuing with our series about the town of Xizhou in Yunnan province. Historians studying the ancient kingdom of Nanzhao have always been intrigued by its close relationship with the Tang court. In the 8th century, the king of Nanzhao pledged his loyalty to the Tang dynasty and promised to defend its southwestern frontier. In return, the Tang court vowed to respect Nanzhao's independence. However, in 902, a high-level official named Zheng Maisi mounted a coup in Nanzhao. The Tang authorities failed to intervene and Nanzhao disappeared.
The Bai people regard this mountain path as a sacred road, as it leads to an equally sacred place in the mountains, the temple of the Tangshan mountain god. Legend has it that it was here that envoys from Tang met the ruler of Nanzhao and signed a peace agreement. In the agreement, the ruler vowed to remain loyal to Tang and promised to defend the Tang dynasty in the southwest. In return, the Tang court vowed to respect Nanzhao's independence. Both sides promised an everlasting peace and never to violate each other's territory. Beside the temple of the Tangshan mountain god is a sacred spring called by local people the Magic Spring. Legends tell how after the meeting between the ruler of Nanzhao and the Tang envoy, the two fetched water from this sacred spring before setting off for Zhongshan Temple to pay respect to Buddha. As a result of the peace accord, both sides gained a period of stability that ensured fast development. 1,200 years have passed since the Tianbao War. Li Mi, the Tang general who ended up in the river, could never have anticipated that one day he would become a figure honoured by his enemy and that he would receive their offerings. Peace was never 100%, however. During the 100 years after the Tianbao War, there was some friction, and small conflicts did erupt now and then between the two sides. But there was never a war like the bloody Tianbao War. Nanzhao enjoyed peace for a period of 254 years through 13 rulers. But then everything was ended in a coup d'etat. In the year AD 902, a high-level official by the name of Zheng Maisi killed the ruler of Nanzhao and his entire family. Zheng then made himself the new ruler, 800 people lost their lives, and the state of Nanzhao disappeared. But 30 or so years later, another regime rose on the same land, and it too left behind many legends for later generations to contemplate. This state, called the State of Dali, is one of the settings used by Louis Cha for his popular kung fu novels. Louis Cha's novels have fascinated readers for generations. Semi-Gods and Semi-Devils is set during the Song dynasty around 1,000 years ago. Most of the plot of this novel does not take place in Dali, however. Dali is simply the source of the magic kung fu skills used by the novel's protagonists. Today, besides enjoying Dali's ethereal landscape, tourists come with the hope of tracing the story Louis Cha presented in his novel, even though most visitors are aware that the characters are largely fictional. But while Louis Cha's story may be fictional, the state of Dali was not. To historians, its 300 years of history are important, and no one disputes that its first king, Duan Siping, was an actual historical figure. Today, the Duan family is a big one in Dali. The earliest place related to the family's history is Xizhou, the place where Duan Siping was born. Gedongbang and Yuanbang are two small villages in front of Tangshan Mountain, and both have a temple in honor of Dali's first ruler, Duan Siping. Of the two images of the ruler, the one inside Three Enchantments Temple in Yuanbang village is the more attractive. Inside this temple, there is also a 300-year-old tablet called Tongming. The inscription on the back of the tablet tells a story about the Bai people. One day, in the yard of a childless old man, a plum falls from a tree and turns into a baby girl. The old man, wild with happiness, names her White Sister. After she grows up, she marries an official named Duan Baolong, and later she gives birth to Duan Siping, who goes on to become the founder of the state of Dali. Tangmei Temple, which is next to Three Enchantments Temple, is where White Sister is memorialized. While various points about Duan Siping's life are disputed, scholars unanimously agree that after the disappearance of Nanzhao, it was he who founded the state of Dali. This is the state that appears in Louis Chao's novel as Duan's regime. This is the filming studio where the TV series adapted from The Semi-Gods and Semi-Devils was produced. This tourist venue is the perfect place for fans of Louis Chao's works who wish to trace the stories featured in his popular kung fu novels. There is the Prince Duan Yu, a great kung fu master, able to walk freely on water and who is kind-hearted and faithful to his woman. Then there is Duan Jiangchuan, his father, who, unlike the son, takes as many women as he can. There is the great master of Yidang, a man who has given up his kingdom to travel as a monk and who can subdue an enemy with a flick of the finger. And there are many, many more. People naturally wonder whether any of these characters were based on real historical figures. It is known that Gao Shangtai, a rather minor character in the Semi-Gods and Semi-Devils, was a real person.
Historical records tell us that Gao Shangtai, once ruler of Dali, established a kingdom called Dazhong. To historians, the relationship between Gao and the Duan family, who were the royal family in Dali, was a matter of considerable interest.
In reality, Gao Shangtai was in no way minor in actual history. Gao ruled for a period before Duan Yu's father Duan Jiangchuan took control. Why, though, did he change the name of the state to Dazhong? In an unofficial history book, we find the following. During the first year of the reign of Emperor Zhezong, Gao Shangtai received power from Duan Jiangming and changed the name of the state from Nanzhao to Dazhong. But why did he do this, and what contribution did he make to history? It all happened in the year AD 1094. Making the most of an unfavorable change in the weather, Gao Shangtai forced the then ruler Duan Jiangming to give up his throne and become a Buddhist monk. It was a bloodless change of power, but it was a coup d'etat nonetheless. However, everything was to turn against the usurper. Within just 2 years, he died in despair. From his deathbed, he instructed his son to return power to Duan Jiangchuan and change the name of the state back to Dali. According to unofficial records, Duan Jiangchuan was Duan Jiangming's younger brother. After he retrieved power, Duan Jiangchuan named the state post-Dali. It is said that despite this change of hands, power remained with the Gao family, simply because for generations various family members held the position of Prime Minister. The Dali state actually died while in the hands of Duan Jiangming. The historical Duan Jiangchuan was not the womanizer depicted in Louis Chao's novel. When his state was hanging by a thread, he implemented a series of reform measures to save it. He exempted his people from corvée duty, compulsory labour for the government, and strengthened trade relations with the Song dynasty in the central part of China. Yet, in spite of this, the real power was not in his hands, and he was destined, like his elder brother, to relinquish power and become a monk. If the Duan Yu of Louis Chao's novel was really a prince of the state of Dali, it was most probably Duan He Yu. But he probably never walked on water or met as many beautiful women as he does in the novel. According to historical records, he was a kind and hard-working ruler who loved his people, and he developed a trade relationship with the Song dynasty through horses and tea. He was in power for 39 years, and he was the last ruler of 22 in the family line. But his end was a sad one, and it was brought about by his 4 sons who were locked in a power struggle. Seriously disillusioned, Duan He Yu became a monk and took the Buddhist name Guang Hong. He died at the age of 94. In another Louis Cha kung fu novel, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, 4 great masters dominate the world of kung fu: East Evil, West Venom, the Emperor of the South, and the Beggar of the North. The Emperor of the South illustrated in this painting is Duan Zhixing, a ruler of Dali who was the grandson of Prince Duan Yu. In the novel, he inadvertently kills his own son because of an affair. Feeling great remorse, he then converts to Buddhism and becomes a monk under the name Yidang. Zhang Shengwen, a famous artist of the state of Dali, painted this Buddhist scroll in the year AD 1180. Of all 22 Dali rulers, 9 became Buddhist monks. A folk rhyme describes them as follows. Out of the royal palace into a Buddhist temple, they are followed by ministers and accompanied by their favourite women. They continue to dress in red as always. Their meditation rooms are in the same style as their bedrooms in the palace. Just as they do, everyone in the country worships Buddha twice a day, in the morning and late afternoon. The state of Dali enjoyed uninterrupted peace for 316 years, something of a record in Chinese history. But before anyone noticed, a nomadic